In Monster Hunter World, there are many aspects to consider when taking on a hunt. The target, your weapon, these are all important, but hunters who want optimal performance need to consider the build they use via the gear they wear. I'm Darcblade, and here are the builds that I use for the Charge Blade. The skills that you can gain from armor, charms, and even some weapons can help shape your hunter into specialized hunting machines. With the Charge Blade, the 8 builds I'm presenting today can fulfill a variety of roles, from DPS, tanking, to even crowd control. The first build I like to utilize is the Elementless build. Granted that a lot of these builds will be Elementless, but this is the main DPS focused one. For this build, you'll need the Dragonkin Eye Patch Alpha, Damascus Mail Beta, Draken Van Braces Alpha, Damascus Coil Beta, and the Death Stench Heal Beta. This is all topped off with a Mighty Charm too. As for your weapon, you'll be using the Toroth Strong Arm Horn with augmentations of your choice. I went for an attack increase and affinity increase. As for the jewels, the only essential ones in this build include the magazine jewel, Elementless jewel, and the 3 artillery jewels. The others are optional, but if you're looking for a DPS build, you may want to consider copying what I did here. Anyway, all of this together gives you a build that has 100 health, 100 stamina, a base attack of 1030, blue sharpness, 20% affinity, and average defense, with a defense bonus against fire at the cost of being weak against water. All this together will give you an attack boost level 4, critical eye level 4, weakness exploit level 3, focus level 3, artillery level 3, handicraft level 2, maximum might level 2, capacity boost 1, and non-elemental boost 1. The main reason for taking focus, and while it's on pretty much a lot of these builds here, is because it helps you charge up your files quicker, as I mentioned during the various Charge Blade guides I've made. The main reason why I take maximum might is because the Charge Blade doesn't really rely on stamina unless you're blocking attacks, and so normally you're always at maximum stamina, and thus you can get affinity from it that way. Some people prefer weakness exploit to maximum might, but go with whatever you feel like, or what you have at hand. The non-element jewel basically increases the attack, so it's pretty much essential on any weapon that doesn't have an active element or ailment. Artillery jewels increase the damage of your file attacks, and the magazine jewel basically increases the amount of files you have on your weapon, which is pretty much essential for every single Charge Blade there is. Now you may be wondering why I've actually gone for any sort of affinity with this build. Well, whilst affinity doesn't really affect files, it can affect all of your other moves, even the first 3 hits of the super amped elemental discharge. So this is sort of a balanced DPS build between increasing your file damage to as much as possible, as well as your other attacks. This is the build that normally gets me the quickest time in speedruns, and it's normally my go-to kit for tough fights. Now if you're looking for alternatives, you can drop the Toroth Strong Arm Horn in favour of the Diablos Tyrannus 2. This is pretty much the same weapon, but lacks the 20 defense bonus that the Toroth Strong Arm Horn has. As for the other bits of gear, you can switch the Draken Van Braces for maybe the Diablos Nero Braces Beta, but this means that you may have to change the chest piece as well to maybe the Dober Mel Beta in order to get a similar build. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Handicraft build. This focuses on getting the Toroth Strong Arm Horn or Diablos Tyrannus 2 to white sharpness and trying to keep it there for as long as possible. So for this build, we start off with the Nergigante Helm Alpha, Kushala Sister Beta, Diablos Nero Braces Beta, Nergigante Coil Beta, Death Stench Heal Beta, and the Attack Charm 3. As for the weapon, you can either use the Toroth Strong Arm Horn or Diablos Tyrannus 2. Again, when it comes to the jewels, try to focus on maxing out your artillery as well as get that magazine jewel. Attack jewels are also helpful, as well as the Elementless jewel, and on top of that I've added a sharp jewel in order to keep that white sharpness for as long as possible. All of this means that with this kit you'll be running 100 health and stamina, 1062 attack, white sharpness, 5% affinity, and a strong defense against everything except for thunder and dragon. This means that with your skills you'll have level 7 attack boost, level 4 handicraft, which allows you to achieve white sharpness with the Toroth Strong Arm Horn or the Diablos Tyrannus 2, artillery level 3, maximum might level 2, focus level 1, capacity boost level 1, protective polish level 1, and non-elemental boost level 1. Like I said, the goal of this is to try to sharpen your weapon before a fight and keep that protective polish on your weapon so you can keep that white sharpness bonus damage for as long as possible. The other good thing about this build is all the bits of armor are obtained through the base game. There are no free update bits of gear in this. The only difficult thing is relying on the jewels. But anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Elemental build. This is a build that focuses on dealing as much elemental damage as you can with the charge blade and requires you to use a weapon that is a power elemental file weapon. Now as for what element you choose, this is down to personal preference. For the purpose of this video demonstration, I've chose the Helbarian blade, which is the Rathalos charge blade. But anyway, apart from that, you also need the Nergigante Helm beta, Kulftarov's Ire beta, Raph's Soul Braces beta, Damascus Call beta, Raph's Soul Greaves beta, and the Handicraft Charm free. Again, the augmentation slots are really down to personal preference. I went with an affinity increase and health regen. As for the decorations, the only real requirement is the magazine jewel to increase the amount of files you get. After that, it's down to personal preference whether you want to go tank or DPS. I went DPS by adding expert gems as well as blaze gems. You can of course replace the blaze gems to match the element of whatever weapon you are using. So say you were using an ice weapon, you could switch out the blaze gem for frost gems. A water weapon means you'll be replacing them with stream jewels, so on and so forth. All of this will give you a build with 100 health and stamina, 738 attack, white sharpness, 70% affinity, and 310 fire element. This build also has a strong defense against fire, but is weak against dragon. As for skills, you'll have level 5 critical eye, fire attack level 3, focus level 3, handicraft level 3, stun resistance level 2, maximum might level 2, crit boost level 1, capacity boost level 1, and protective polish level 1. To be honest, the protective polish via the sharp jewel isn't really needed for this build. I just added it there to help me keep that extra handicraft. Having 2 pieces of the Rathalos set and allowing you to get part of the Rathalos mastery means that you'll get the critical element, allowing your crits to cause more elemental damage. Now of course this build is focusing more on the elemental attack value rather than the base raw attack value. That's why there's no real attack on this build. Instead it focuses on fire attack or whatever element you're going for, combined with handicraft and affinity. Of course, like I said in my other videos, when using power element files, instead of going straight into the super amped elemental discharge, sometimes it's just simpler to perform the elemental discharge combo before going into the super amped elemental discharge. But anyway, the next build is the critical build or affinity build, which actually is surprisingly fun to use. However, it does require you to get a lot of high tier gear in order to complete this build. This build also focuses more on the direct attacks than the actual file attacks to deal the most damage. So I've started off with the Nergigante Helm Beta, the Draken Mail Alpha, Draken Vambraces Alpha, the Damascus Coil Beta, and the Draken Greaves Alpha. This is all topped off with the Handicraft Charm free. I'm also using the Taroth Strong Arm Claw weapon. As for the augmentations, I wanted to go for increasing the affinity of the weapon twice, but unfortunately I ran out of stream stones. As for the jewels, as you can see, they are a mix of affinity based jewels combined with an elementless jewel, artillery jewels, and that magazine jewel. Anyway, all of this should give you a kit that has 100 health and stamina, 810 attack, white sharpness, 90% affinity, which potentially can be even more, and an okay set of defense stats. So basically this will give you critical eye level 5, attack boost level 4, critical boost level 3, handicraft level 3, artillery level 3, maximum might level 3, focus level 1, non-elemental boost level 1, and capacity boost level 1. This build benefits a lot from direct attacks on top of the file damage. So again, instead of just going straight into a super amped elemental discharge, consider doing the elemental discharge combo beforehand to allow more of your hits to crit. Unfortunately for the affinity build, there is no real alternatives. A lot of this gear is high-end stuff, and although you probably could get a decent affinity build, you may miss out on key decorations, unfortunately. Anyway, the next build is the KO build or knockout build. This build focuses on the natural KO bonus that you get from impact files. With this, you can potentially stun lock a monster as long as you're hitting its head. For this, I start by taking the Nergigante Helm Alpha, Kushala Sister Beta, Death Stench Grips Beta, Damascus Coil Beta, and Nergigante Greaves Beta. This is then followed up by the KO Charm level 3, and I would strongly advise taking the Impact Mantle for this build. As for the weapon, you can either use the Taroth Strong Arm Horn or Diabolus Tyrannus 2, if you haven't been lucky with Kulf Taroth yet. As for jewels, make sure you have your artillery jewels, elementless jewels, magazine jewels, and then this can be followed up by attack jewels or anything else you fancy. This in all will give you a kit with 100 health and stamina, 1030 attack, blue sharpness, 5% affinity, and an okay defense apart from thunder and dragon. And the skills you get from this are attack boost level 4, focus level 3, slugger level 3 which helps with knocking out monsters, artillery level 3, maximum might level 3, Handicraft level 2, Capacity Boost level 1, Guard level 1, and Non-Elemental Boost level 1. Of course, you can replace the Iron War Jewel with whatever you want. The Jewel slot on the Diabolus Tyrannus was actually one of the augmentations I put on it. Anyway, this is quite a straightforward build. You can get this pretty much from the base game. The only difficult part may be getting the jewels. But even without all the jewels, this build can still be quite potent, just as long as you aim for the head with your file attacks, which will all lead to high KO damage, potentially stun locking a monster like I said. Next is the Paralysis build. This is more of a support crowd control build than anything. This utilizes one of the lower rank weapons in our arsenal. Anyway, for this build you'll need the Nergigante Helm Beta, Empress Mel Beta, Death Stench Grips Beta, Nergigante Coil Beta, and the Death Stench Heal Beta. This is all topped off with the Handicraft Charm 3. I would also strongly advise taking the Apothecary Mantle with this build. As for the weapon, I used the Gyros Nadja 3, as this has a very high paralysis rating. This can be augmented in any way you see fit. As for jewels, of course go for your standard artillery and magazine jewels should you have them. Afterwards stack up on paralyzer jewels and then top it off with anything you feel like. All in all, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 115 health, should you follow the decorations I've done, 709 attack, white sharpness, 45 affinity, and 370 paralysis rating. You also have a decent defense rating, except for when you're fighting dragon. As for the skills you get level 5 handicraft, level 4 attack boost, level 3 paralysis attack, level 3 artillery, level 2 focus, level 2 peak performance, level 2 maximum might, level 1 capacity boost, level 1 guard, and a level 1 health boost. This build focuses on trying to paralyze the monster before unleashing your super amped elemental discharge. If you're looking for alternatives for this build, you may want to consider the Empress Mel Beta with maybe the Damascus Mel Beta, as it still has the same amount of gem slots, but it means you'll miss out on peak performance. Anyway, the next build is the tank or health regen build, one of my personal favorites. This one is a more defensive build, focusing on health regen and survivability, whilst at the same time allowing your file attacks to deal damage. For this build, I take the Nergigante Helm Beta, Valhasak Mel Gamma, Valhasak Braces Beta, Valhasak Coil Gamma, and Valhasak Greaves Gamma. This is then followed up by the Focus Charm 2. As for the weapon, I take the Empress Alma Ruin with a health regen augmentation on it. This is the Lunostra / Nergigante weapon, so it already has that hasten recovery bonus stacked with the health regen augmentation. As for jewels, the most essential are again the artillery jewels and magazine jewel. This is then followed by anything to increase my defense, so I've included vitality jewels, the shield jewel that allows the shield to block potentially unblockable attacks, brace jewels, defense jewels, and iron war jewels. I also added a mighty jewel there just for a little bit of bonus affinity, although you can replace this with whatever you wish. Anyway, if you followed this build, you should come out of it with 150 health, 100 stamina, 738 attack, white sharpness, 20% affinity, 120 blast rating, with a high defense rating against water, but is fairly weak against fire and dragon. Despite that though, because of the actual skills you get, the defense elemental weaknesses isn't too much of an issue. This is because with this build you'll get health boost level 3, recovery speed level 3, peak performance level 3, artillery level 3, maximum might level 3, focus level 2, flinch free level 2, defense boost level 1, recovery up level 1, dragon attack level 1. This isn't really too important, this is just a byproduct of the actual gear I'm using. Capacity boost level 1, guard level 1, guard up level 1, haste and recovery, and the Valhasak Vitality Super Recovery set bonus. This all makes a build that has incredibly high survivability. Your health just almost constantly regens, and should you be attacking a monster, it goes up even quicker. This is a build that I'm comfortable in taking into tank Behemoth. Unfortunately though, this does rely on a lot of endgame content and stuff added with the free updates, so unfortunately I don't really have any real alternatives with this. You could use the Valhasak Beta armor if you wish to get a similar effect, but it will still be a shadow compared to this one. And the last build is the budget build. I wanted to include a budget build in every one of my build guides. This is because not everyone is at the same level, not everyone has access to tons of jewels, and not everyone has access to the free updates yet. The budget build is something that you should be able to craft as soon as you get to endgame. Anyway, for the budget charge blade build, I use the Nergigante Helm Alpha, the Dobermel Beta, the Diablos Nero Braces Beta, the Nergigante Coil Alpha, the Dodogama Greaves Beta, and the Artillery Charm level 3. And for the weapon, I use the Diablos Tyrannus 2. And the augmentations are down to you at the end. As for jewels, well, this is depending how far you've got into the endgame. Normally you have at least one attack jewel which you can add to this. Afterwards, just add whatever you have available to you. Normally vitality jewels are quite easy to get, but if you can get your hands on the Elementless build or artillery jewels or magazine jewel, then it will help this build out quite a bit. If you've done what I've done in this build here, you should have 150 health, 100 stamina, 1051 attack, blue sharpness, 5% affinity, okay defense although you are weak against thunder attacks. As for the armor skills, you'll have attack boost level 6, health boost level 3, artillery level 3, maximum might level 3, focus level 1, capacity boost level 1, stamina surge level 1, and non-elemental boost level 1. Nonetheless, this is a good all-round damage build that should help people getting into the end game and starting to go into tempered monsters. But anyway, those are the 8 builds that I tend to use with the Charge Blade. Of course, Monster Hunter World is always being updated with new monsters and gear, which can potentially cause these builds to change and become even stronger. So if there are any major updates that happen to change any of these builds, I'll release an updated video. Also remember that in Monster Hunter World, any task can be taken on with any gear or any weapon, so you don't have to use what I've shown off in these videos. These are just the sets that I personally like to use. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you the builds I use for the Charge Blade in Monster Hunter World. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.